right, everyone is here, so how about we start? Okay, everybody's here. The chair recognizes Senator Reagan for opening remarks on Senate Study Bill 3113. Senator Reagan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Your committee of Reagan, Costello, and Wilhelm recommend passage.
All right. Proceed on the bill.
This bill deals with the Medical Assistant Advisory Council and its executive committee. And it's a very simple bill. It adds the state long-term care ombudsman or ombudsman's designee, and we ask that they be appointed to the council and the advisory executive council.
Is there any discussion on the bill? Seeing none. Senator Reagan, final remarks.
Well, I think this is extremely important because of the involvement that the long-term care ombudsman has in the state, and especially with the opportunities of moving forward with the managed care. And I really think this is a great piece of legislation, so I would move it short form.
Short form has been called. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? It carries. Senate Study Bill without amendment will be sent directly to the calendar as a committee bill. That's Senate Study Bill 3113. All right, on to the next bill, Senate File 2008. Senator Bolcom for opening remarks on the bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, your subcommittee of Senator Reagan, Senator Johnson, and myself recommend passage with amendment.
Please proceed on opening remarks.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senate File 2008 is legislation aimed at providing better access to the life-saving drugs to help persons being treated for drug overdoses. The bill would authorize first responders, which include EMT persons, police officers, firefighters, and licensed healthcare professionals to maintain a supply of opioid antagonists and administer to persons experiencing an opioid-related overdose. In 2010, the Department of Public Health says that about 161 doses were administered by EMS around Iowa. Today, in 2014, that had risen from 161 doses to 231 cases where people were suffering from drug overdoses that had this antagonist administered. The legislation provides liability protection, allows the department to write rules to determine standards and procedures for prescriptions, distribution, storage, and administration of opioid antagonists, as well as training for first responders. That's the bill. There is an amendment.
Proceed on the amendment, Senator.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, the amendment recognizes that in addition to emergency personnel, first responders, there might be other people that could help persons suffering from a drug overdose. So the bill essentially adds the person in a position to assist, and persons in a position to assist could include a family member, a friend, caregiver, a healthcare provider, employee of a substance abuse treatment facility, or another person who may be in a place to render aid to a person at risk of experiencing an opioid-related overdose. So those types of persons are identified in the amendment. It also provides liability protection to those persons. There are a couple other sections of the amendment that deal with training and authorization of first responders and rulemaking around how we're going to train and do authorization. And then the final, not the final operation, but page 1, line 33, the Department of Public Health indicates that it'll cost about $74,000 to put together the rules, the training that's going to be needed by fire departments and police departments. And the contingent language here is if the legislature doesn't appropriate the $74,000, the bill would not go into effect. That's the amendment. I'd be happy to try and answer any questions on the amendment.
Is there any discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, how do you wish to vote? Short form. Short form's been called. On the amendment, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The amendment carries. Back on the bill. Discussion on the bill. Senator Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a few comments. This almost seems counterintuitive but it's not. It's actually saving a life. It's an attempt to save a life. May not always be successful. But I just remind the committee, last year we had a psychiatrist and a social worker here from Cedar Rapids, and we were told that the substance treatment program there and law enforcement as well were working their way through what were a number of heroin overdoses. And during the New Hampshire campaign, we all heard that heroin addiction is a crisis in New Hampshire. Well, in some parts of Iowa, it's here too. So I think there's been a lot of work done on this, and in putting this forward. And I would just say it's worth the effort here. I think we've got everything covered, and just encourage the committee to move the bill forward and that we get this out and onto the floor. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Appreciate your observations. Senator Dotzler.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I just want to say briefly, I'm extremely supportive of this bill. Some years back, not that far ago, my mother was in a severe car accident, broke her spine in 3 spots when she was in her 80s. And she was in the hospital, and they were giving her drip painkillers, which are opioids. And they also gave her one of those push button deals, and they didn't coordinate them. And she was obviously in severe pain, and she overdosed herself and went cold blue, respiratory arrest, could not breathe, and was just moments from dying. A nurse came in the room, realized what was going on, and administered one of these antagonists, and it changed everything immediately. They were able to bring her back. And I just bring that up, even though it was in a hospital in a controlled setting. When you got first responders out there and they're aware of what's going on, this really can save somebody's life. And a lot of times a first responder might not have the medical training, even though they're going to get it, and they might misidentify what the situation is. These drugs that they administer will not affect somebody in a negative way. And so this is a win-win with no negatives to it, other than somebody, as I think Senator Brace said to us earlier, they might have got a pinprick from having an injection. So this is a great bill, and I'm glad that it was brought before us.
Thank you for your comments, Senator Dotzler. We do want to thank Senator Brace, who is an EMT, and Senator Kinney, who is a retired sheriff's detective, for working on this bill together. Yes, Senator Costello, comments. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. The money that were involved here, that was to train EMTs and those type of people, as well as people who might want to do it, or like a friend or a family member, or just the EMTs, or I guess I was a little fuzzy on who that was to train.
Mostly focused on first responders.
Okay.
The rules provide kind of I think the page 2, line 15 through 20, I think, describes what's going to cost money.
Okay, so we're not requiring the friend to go through a course
No,
in
we're
order to
not.
get this. Okay, thank you.
Okay, all right. Closing remark. Anyone else? Yes, Senator Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I apologize for a second time, but the question may arise, why heroin? And it's because it is dirt cheap. It really is. For what I understand, it can be $150 or more to get the equivalent high off of Oxycontin or hydrocodone or something like that on the street, but you can, get that same high for the day, spending $30 or $40 on heroin. I mean, it's just, and the heroin dealers know it. So it's not something to be taken lightly. And again, I just think it's a good bill. And I just wanted to make that note because maybe sometimes we don't understand what's happening with some of the addictions that are out there. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Thank you all for your great comments today. Senator Bolcom, closing comments.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks for all the comments on the bill. Again, Senator Brace and Senator Kinney deserve a ton of credit, and it's probably no surprise they're the people that have seen a lot of circumstances that this would be of some assistance to them and their colleagues. So I'd ask for your support. I know there is a bill in the House. I think the Senate bill is the bill. I hope we can get it over there and get them to take it up. I move the bill short form as amended.
Okay, thank you, Senator Bolkum. A short form has been called. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Bill carries. We ask unanimous consent that Senate File 2008 be sent directly to the calendar as a committee bill under Rule 40. All right, now we're on Senate File 2107 with Senator Reagan. Medicaid Oversight.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Your committee of Reagan, Bolkum, Mathis, Johnson, and Segabart all signed and suggest passage.
Please proceed on the bill.
Well, this is a very, very extensive bill relating to the oversight of managed care if it moves forward. It is quite lengthy, but in essence, it makes sure there is good oversight and strong stakeholder involvement. With the Medicaid reinvestment fund, it adds and makes sure that we are reinvesting back into the system and making for sure that there are quality improvements. It amends the managed care contracts to protect consumers, providers, and assure accountability. So we could go on with examples, and I could tell you all the stories that you've heard before, but I think this is key to making sure that this works. I think as Iowans, we want to work together. We understand if this moves forward, the best way to handle this situation is to work together, provide oversight, and make sure that we're doing it the right way. This is also, I'm just going to preface this is also a work in progress. We will have amendments. We heard at our subcommittee meeting some other ideas, and we understand that, but we want to get this out of committee so that it moves forward and is part of the process. And it's pretty long, so with this many pages to get every detail right, it's understandable that there will be some changes.
Are there any questions for Senator Reagan? Yes, Senator Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to the work of the subcommittee. And as a ranking member, I also encourage anybody who would like to improve this, that we take those suggestions. What we had last year, we did have a oversight committee last year, and I'm going to call it legislative oversight light compared to what we're doing here. And I think we should move forward with this. So we can do a lot better. And I know one thing after the vote last week here on a different bill, there are a lot of concerns everywhere. When I went home this weekend, that's all we talked about. Okay? So it's a big, big issue. And we're talking about 1 out of 6 Iowans. So we need to do something like this. I encourage the committee to fully support it. Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? Senator Reagan? Oh, Senator Bolkum.
Yeah,
Go
well,
ahead.
I just say, this is a really important bill. It's the legislature's attempt to pay attention to and oversee this major change in how we're going to deliver health care to nearly 1 in 6 Iowans. And I appreciate all the work that's gone into this. I mean, I think we've been told that this is not only going to save money, but it's going to improve the health care outcomes for people in our state. I think this bill is going to help us measure that over time and give us some confidence or not whether this new approach is going to work. I do hope, Senator Johnson's point on the oversight we did last session, we need more oversight, and I hope that the House will take a serious look at this bill as we continue to work on it here, but I assume we're going to get something out of the Senate. Hopefully we'll get some bipartisan support from our colleagues in the House and get this down to the governor's desk. Senator Reagan, thanks for your work on this.
And I agree too. Thank you, Senator Reagan, for your work. I think this bill compared to last year's bill, we had a timely bill, not a timeless bill last year. So timely meaning we were reacting to the contractual obligations. We were looking at the RFPs and reacting to what we thought was important then. A year later, we can see clear that there are some other issues that are very important that need to be brought up comprehensively. And so this is a timeless bill. This is something that will adhere to any changes that might be made, any corrections that will be made in the years to come. And of course, as Senator Reagan said, we will be making some changes as we go, and I appreciate all the work and all the support from the senators who served on that subcommittee. Any final comments from anybody else? And final comments from Senator Reagan.
Well, I want to thank everybody around the table for being involved in this process, because I think it is important to move forward and deal with program integrity, because I think all of us would want that. And I think we will continue to work and evolve how this bill moves forward, because there are still concerns out there. What I would encourage any of you in the audience to understand is that all of us are going to be contributing to this, and we will probably have another subcommittee. I promise it won't be at 7:30 in the morning, because there was some grumbling on that. I understand that. But, okay. So as long as Senator Johnson's kind of okay with that, maybe we'll go back to those 7:30s. But I do think that it's important to have all of us involved, because that's how, if it's going to work, it needs to have that involvement. And with that, I just ask for all of your vote and your support as we move forward on this, and I ask for your input as well.
Right, how do you wish to vote? Short form has been called. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? It carries. And Senate File 2107 will be sent directly to the calendar as a committee bill. Final bill of the day, Senate File 2079 with Senator Bokum for opening remarks.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Your subcommittee of Senator Johnson, Senator Dotzler, and I recommend passage with amendment.
Proceed on the bill.
Thanks. Senate File 2079 is a bill that allows pharmacists to dispense up to 90 days' supply of a prescription drug. The issue that we're addressing with this bill is people that are on cholesterol drugs, drugs for high blood pressure, heart disease, diabetes, that will be on a drug for a very long period of time, a year or more, and their desire to get a prescription filled that is more than a 30-day supply. The bill essentially allows for a pharmacist to dispense up to a 90-day supply of a drug. There is an amendment.
Proceed on the amendment, Senator.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The amendment 2549 deals with making sure that a controlled substance would not be part of a dispensing extension beyond 30 days. So controlled substances would not be allowed to be dispensed for a 90-day period, and that's essentially the heart of the amendment. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Questions for Senator Bokum? Seeing none, how do you wish to vote?
Move it short form.
Short form has been called. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Amendment carries. Back on the bill, Senator. Any questions for Senator Bokum on the overall bill? Seeing none, Senator Bokum, final comments?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I think the bill it'll be a convenience for many consumers, save some money at the same time, having to show up at the pharmacy and co-pays and the like. So I think it's a good measure, and I'd ask for your support. Short form.
Short form has been called. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Vote carries. Senate File 2079 will be sent directly to the calendar as a committee bill under Rule 40. Before you go, I want to make sure that minutes are approved unless there are objections from the last meeting. All right, so minutes are approved. And our next meeting, as I said, we will have a long list of bills, should they be ready. And I ask for your patience, and maybe we'll go a little bit longer on that committee meeting, so be prepared. Happy Funnel Week, everybody. And Senator Johnson has a final comment before we leave.
I do. It was a very good meeting today. Would Senator Bokum yield? How many bills did we do today, Senator Bokum? Thank you for yielding to Finley.
I think 4.
Okay, and how many did we work on together?
3.
And we agreed each time.
We did. God
Senator
bless us.
Bokum, I think that may never have happened before in human resources history. So anyway, okay.
And with that, Senator Johnson moves that we adjourn.